Hi everybody, Dr. Michelle Mars here. Welcome to week 6 Gestalt therapy. An introduction to a new therapeutic philosophy, I guess, and a new set of techniques. Gestalt, one of the distinguishing features of the Gestalt therapy is that it's located in the here and now, so it's looking at what we are experiencing and how we're feeling about things right here and right now, rather than trying to work through how we felt about things in the past, which distinguishes it from psychoanalytic therapy. So, first of all, let's have a look at the Gestalt prayer and what it means, and we'll look at Gestalt philosophy principles and the basic tenets. So, as I said before, the focus is on the here and now and what's happening for the client in their environment in the present moment. So this is the originator of Gestalt therapy, Friedrich, also known as Fitzgerald, and he was alive between 1983 and 1970. So you've probably heard of this. I do my thing and you do your thing, and I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations. You're not in this world to live up to mine. You are you and I am I, and if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful, but if not, it can't be helped. And of course, that's not a literal find, it's find someone in the sense of having a connection with. So the Gestalt prayer is about being true to yourself, and that we should live in harmony according to our own needs and what feels right, rather than the expectations of others. So when we live in this way, it's easier to encourage others to do the same, which creates stronger relationships. So we are ourselves, and we encourage the people around us to be themselves as well, rather than to live up to some kind of principles that we might hold. So the Gestalt philosophy is known as a joined-up approach. So it embraces a person's whole life experiences, physical, psychological, intellectual, emotional, interpersonal, and spiritual. So each of these areas are seen as interconnected aspects of life, and inseparable from the person's environment, history, and culture. And this is like what we mean by a Gestalt. So a Gestalt is like a joined-up approach. It's the whole of a person. All those things that I mentioned, emotional, interpersonal, spiritual, etc. So from a Gestalt perspective, a well-lived life is grounded in a person's awareness of how they live their life and conduct their relationships. So what it's trying to do, what a Gestalt therapist is trying to do, is to promote self-awareness, support creative choice rather than the obvious choice or the choice people think they have to make, encourage responsibility for self, and facilitate connectedness in a person's efforts to realise a meaningful and fulfilling life. So you might have noticed in the approaches that we've discussed so far, that this kind of taking responsibility for yourself, having personal agency, is a feature of all approaches to counselling. So I love this little quote here: "I never look back, darling. It distracts from the here and now." And I love this movie, The Incredibles movies, personally. Okay, so Gestalt philosophy. So relationship is emphasised along with contact between the self, the person, its environment, and the other. So we need to understand the person and the environment in which they're located. So we need some context for the person. We can't just treat them, or we can't just be with them or counsel them in isolation. And we need to focus on what's happening now, not in the past. So the core of the Gestalt process is to enhance awareness of sensation, perception, body feelings, emotion, and behaviour in the present moment. So if somebody starts talking about something and they're like, oh, it's like, okay, so this is obviously something which is hurting your heart or very heartfelt, and we go on to explore those feelings. So the dictionary definition of Gestalt is form, shape, configuration, structure, arrangement, organisation, or figure. So a Gestalt, again, is the whole of the person. So the Gestalt philosophy says that in order to change, we must accept who we are. So it's not just about not being able to look at the past or not being able to look at who we were in the past. It's about accepting who we are in order to change. And if we try to work to change without accepting ourselves, then we will remain stuck where we are now, or in the here and now. So we ask questions like, how do you feel? How do you feel when you think about? And we can train ourselves to think differently. So it uses this concept of Gestalt, so seeing things as a whole. And in order to kind of illustrate this, it's like when we think of a loaf of bread, we don't see flour and water and sugar and yeast. We actually see the loaf of bread as a whole, and that's what Gestalt philosophy is also trying to do. So there are some premises in Gestalt philosophy, like the law of proximity. So when we put things together, we close to each other, we often see them as one group. So the group of dots on the left looks like a group, whereas we put the other ones in lines and they look less like a group. We also tend to see things differently depending on our experience. So you might first of all see a tree here, or you might see a lion and a baboon, depending on your experience. And depending on whether we see the right to left here, we'll either see a rabbit or a duck, a vase, or two people facing each other. This is a little bit more complicated, but it actually looks like two people holding or kissing each other. So the principles of Gestalt are homeostasis, that we will try and reach a balance and an equilibrium, that we will see differently a foreground and a background depending on our perspective, that there is an integration of the whole of the self, that therapy is located in the here and now, that there needs to be an awareness of who we are and what's going on for us right now, that there's unfinished business that may need to be finished, that people may be resistant to change or resistant to working acceptance of who they are now, which means we get stuck in the here and now, and that there's a therapeutic process that needs to be gone through. So here are some of the tenets of Gestalt. So my relationship with the world impacts my existence, that I configure the world through those relationships, and that relationships are intimately involved with existence. So in the assignment, which is coming up at the end of week 6, we can very much see how these tenets relate to our client's life. So unfinished business relates to when something is incomplete, we want to perfect it or finish it in an act of closure. So this interferes with our Gestalt or our wholeness. So the experience of traumatic or upsetting experiences from the past or in our unmet needs in the present are being triggered by those unmet needs in the past. So when we work with clients, we work with their aims. We look at what's in the background and what's in the foreground for them, and perhaps needing to change those things around. We look at their boundaries, we look at their self-awareness, and we use experiments and exercises to bring us into the here and now. So the aims of Gestalt therapy are to access clients' true feelings, to bring the client into their awareness, to tune into their different body sensations, to note different energies, and to find areas of resistance and block, so that acknowledging of who we are in the here and now. So in terms of the foreground and the background, we trace with the client their most prominent memory of an individual situation. We encourage the client to bring their feelings, thoughts and bodily sensations and beliefs into their current awareness, and to explore how this experience interrupts their current life, and to explore both the positive and negative aspects of the interruption. So very different from something from, say, positive psychology or solution-based approaches. So we look at our boundaries between ourselves and the world. How much? I'm not going to talk about this right now. Sorry. We look at self-awareness, and the assumption is that we're responsible for our own growth and behaviour. So this might involve for some people learning to make I statements, changing language such as can't to won't, and I should be doing something to I choose to do something or choose not to do something. It's the responsibility of the practitioner to be client-centred and also to encourage the client to take responsibility for themselves. So once again, this is, although it's much more challenging than person-centred, it is another, the client needs to be very much connected to, the therapist needs to be very much connected to and client-centred in their approach. So a technique here is using guided fantasy in the session. So when the client talks about a situation involving others, the therapist asks the client to close their eyes and imagine the encounter. The therapist will then ask the client what the experience is like in the here and now. And also the therapist might ask the client to slow the image down and go through the encounter again. So the therapist asks the client to describe feelings and thoughts that are coming up. Another thing that's also used is dream work. So in a Gestalt kind of schema, every person in the dream is you. And that what's happening for Fritz Perls believe that dreams contain these rejected or disowned parts of the self. And that, like, so because you're every aspect of the dream, you're the hurricane, you're the attacker, you're the broken down car, you're the bridge, you're the dusty book, you're all the things in the dream. And so what are these symbols? What are they symbolic of for you? So there are two main ways that we work with clients using Gestalt therapy. Those are experiments and exercises. So exercises are sort of established practices in Gestalt designed to arouse action, emotion, or goals for the person in therapy. And exercises and experiments arise through the development of the therapeutic process in the therapeutic relationship. They're the core component of Gestalt therapy and allow the person in therapy to understand different aspects of conflict, experience, or mental health issues. So an experiment might be setting up a dialogue with a significant person or part of yourself, which is the chair work, the two chairs. It might be dramatising, so like emphasising a painful event like using psychodrama if you're in a group situation or a role play. It might be focusing on your body language, so what is your sore stomach or what are your tears saying to you? Or it might be externalizing an emotion to help you understand what meaning it has. So, you know, you've got this emotion, anger. So, you know, let's give anger a name. What does anger mean to you? And what's anger saying to you? Those are the kinds of questions that you ask when you're externalize an emotion. You might use exercises to elicit an emotion or to achieve a specific goal or to produce an outcome. So you might use exaggeration. You'll see in the Fritz Perls video that Fritz has a very confrontational style, which is very grounded in the here and now. And so he's trying to help Gloria discover aspects of her personality that she keeps hidden, like her insecurity, shyness, fear of judgment, and fear of not being equal or not being enough. And yeah, here's just some questions. It's like, I think it's really interesting to think about how ideas about femininity have changed since the 1950s when you look at that Fritz Perls video. And also, you know, is there anything that has resonated with you in terms of the lecture notes or videos? And can you imagine using Gestalt techniques with the client? So Gestalt techniques do tend to be quite confrontational in comparison to things like person-centered therapy. There's a lot of work to be done by the client sometimes when you're using exercises and other techniques. Some people find it too confrontational. I personally think that a lot of the techniques that are taught in Gestalt are very useful. So enjoy this week, and any last assignment questions, please ask me, or any issues that you're having with assignments, please get in contact with me. And bye.